And she said, I've seen so much more results in 2 weeks than I did, with, a month and a half after my operation. And she's like, no offense. And I'm like,
I'm Garrett Salpeter, and I believe that the most powerful and transformative way to help people recover from pain and injury, heal from trauma, and reach their highest levels of fitness and performance is to focus on the nervous system. In this podcast, we'll share knowledge from the frontiers of neuroscience and inspirational stories of how applying that knowledge has empowered people from all walks of life to heal, adapt, and grow. All right. I am here with David Woodward from Na'au Physical Therapy in Honolulu, Hawaii, also known as the Power of Na'au.
trademark. Trademark
David,
Garrett.
welcome.
Aloha. Good morning.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. I'm excited to get this opportunity to catch up with you, and grateful to you for being the first physical therapist, the first practice in all of Hawaii to have NeuFit, to offer NeuFit on the islands. So thank you for that as well.
Yeah, mahalo.
Can you please tell us, just so everyone who's listening can get to know you a little bit, tell us your history as a physical therapist and your clinic and everything you had been doing even before we met.
Okay. So yeah, I've been a physical therapist since 2009. And I worked from there until I worked for a different practice until 2015 and decided to open up my own practice. And my vision for opening up a practice was to provide something that was more in alignment with what I wanted to do. And, I felt as a physical therapist, I was able to do kind of a tremendous lot with skilled manual therapy from the North American Institute of Manual Therapy, and fortunate to learn under the private practice that I was working under. And I wanted to add more to it, to some of the stuff that interested me from a podcast that just came out at that time, Bulletproof Radio. And a lot of the biohacking stuff started from there. And I came back from home for college back in 2009. So I've been quite the dork in that remark, but I wanted to utilize that to create an overall wellness type of approach versus, we have the skilled manual therapy things. We add movement that is meaningful for patients, but I wanted to provide more. I knew there was more to create efficiency with how to heal people. So that's what I did. And I was able to acquire all kinds of amazing biohacking equipment just from attending the conference. And I know this has been for 7 years, but I've only went to 4 of them, I believe, for the past 4, since they changed the name as well. Mm-hmm.
So for everyone who's listening, if you're not familiar, this is the Bulletproof Biohacking Conference, now called the Upgrade Labs Conference. So Dave Asprey started Bulletproof Coffee, and the Bulletproof brand of all different sorts of products now has this wonderful conference every year, or not this year with coronavirus, but had been every year for the last 6 or 7 years. And there's wonderful speakers and technologies and different equipment and all these, it's a really cool thing. So just to give a little context for everybody.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. So so since then, as a PT, I've been able to combine this type of approach and with all these different types of biohacking equipment, as well as within my physical therapy realm and wellness program. But we've been able to contact this type of approach also in aesthetics, which is what my wife does with us here at Na'au.
Right.
Yeah.
So you've got a physical therapy practice. You've got your wife is an esthetician, a couple others on the team as well, and we've got a blend of physical therapy, biohacking, wellness, aesthetics. A lot of stuff going on there. What, again, before we met, what were some of the technologies, or I know you mentioned manual therapy techniques, what were some of the things that moved the needle the most for you?
So getting back to what you're mentioning about the technologies, the first one I actually acquired was a vibration plate.
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought it was like the neatest experience that I've had the first year I went to the conference. So I ended up getting one. And then a lot of people responded just from simple vertical vibration. People were hooked. They were like, oh my gosh, what is this? In Hawaii, these kinds of things aren't very common, right? And when people see things that are new and interesting, it piques their interest. And especially, I'm known as the physical therapist throughout all the doctors as, oh, he just does things differently, right? Or if they're having a hard time with figuring out what to do with this patient, they'll just send them to us because he said for some reason some of the stuff he uses works. And that was just with the vibe plate in the beginning. I was like, what? So I thought, why do I stop there? I mean, let's invest. Let's take a look at some things that we want to invest in that help to address not just pain and nutrition, but like how can we become more resilient? If that was our overall goal, right? How do you create the most resilient human being? So after that, we acquired the NanoV, and the NanoV became very essential for us. I mean, we've been doing it daily, every day, and NanoV is what helps to basically deliver the fourth phase of water into your system and through a mist, which is pretty amazing, actually. And it's hard to explain. To experience it is something, but what it does is that it helps your proteins to fold more consistently so that you're able to repair on a cellular level consistently, right? And more efficiently. So we have this, in combination with our wellness program, but also, some patients that choose to, or clients want to come in and do it, whether it be through PT or even aesthetics with my wife. They see dramatic changes in their skin, in their gut function, in their recovery. And so that was a life changer in the beginning. After that, we acquired a couple of other biohacking things, such as the X3 bar. I don't know if you've heard of it before.
Yeah, Dr. Jaquish and
Janquish, Dr. Janquish, amazing biomedical engineer. And then after we acquired that, we hooked up with LightStim, which does red light. And because we were always interested in using red light, we wanted something that could be applicable to a lot of our patients and clients alike. So we invested in selling these pain belts that they used, which are pretty neat. I just happen to have it right here. I don't carry it with me everywhere. But red light and was starting to become very useful here between me and my wife. She uses a different type of red light stim for her clients, of course, rather than one for pain. But after the red light, that's when I decided to give a call over to Garrett, to you, about the newbie, because of an experience.
Let's talk about
Yeah.
that. So first of all, thank you for sharing that. I think these could be excellent topics. Maybe we'll do a part two. Hopefully you can join
Oh
us
my gosh.
here in
There's so
Austin,
much.
or even better, I'll be there in Hawaii.
Oh yeah.
Hopefully we can do a part two and dive into some, because there's really interesting science and really interesting stories behind vibration, exclusion zone water, or fourth phase of water, NanoV, like you talked about, red light. There's a lot on red light, and all of these are certainly very complementary with the newbie and the work we're doing at NeuFit, and they fit well within all the concepts and everything that we're doing. So that's good. And then yes, so in this very technologically advanced facility that you have there,
Yeah.
this could be definitely some synergy there. Can you just share with everyone that story of how we met funny enough, at the Bulletproof Conference.
Yeah. So this recently happened, like as I was mentioning, just after I got the X3, actually before the light stem. And so I went to the conference, or actually, I'm sorry, my whole family went to the conference. Yeah. And this was the last one that they had in Beverly Hills. And so, make a long story short, there was an event that required a lot of risk. And when it comes to risk, me and my wife, we don't turn back, and we don't look back. We just take it straight on. And it actually took a lot for me to get to that point, but nowadays I'm just going head on. And that's literally what we did. My wife jumped off. The event was jumping off about 20, 25 feet or so onto a stunt bag. If people don't know what that is, what a lot of stunt people jump into, a whole bunch of air in it, and it's supposed to cushion you. I don't know what the factors were, but I just don't think that, at that moment, there probably wasn't enough air or whatever factors there were. But my wife jumped first, and she injured her neck kind of abruptly, similar to a whiplash type, and reactivated her back pain and pelvic pain that we were working hard on from before. I jumped after her onto the stunt bag, and immediately, as I jumped, after I hit the bag, I coiled, and my back just gave, and I felt like all the air out of my body just left. It was pretty impactful. I mean, in more than one way, obviously, but it was terrible. Um, uh, and I was so upset at that moment. I refused help from anybody. I just was upset on so many different levels, and I went home. Well, actually, I'm sorry. We were helped by a number of medical professionals that were there, where I was good friends of mine, and I had a friend that took me to his clinic. Had some different types of therapy. Used some different machinery, the same stuff that was at the conference. Actually, this guy had at his place too. And it helped me quite an amount. That night I slept better than I hoped, but my back was very, very stiff and sore. I couldn't bend down very much, just to lift the toilet seat, And so it was hard because I had my kids there with me too, and my wife and my mom and dad, the grandparents, they were helping out to watch the kids while we were at the conference, and I felt really bad. So me and Dara had a discussion. Well, should we go or not? I was like, no, let's go, because this is the place that we got to do it at. They have everything that we could get to get better. So we went there, and I went to the NanoV station because we were looking for something that could help me at the moment. And we did red light in the beginning, but we walked around, and I saw Rowena from ENG, or NanoV, from ENG3. And she's like, what happened? Are you okay? And I said, no, man, this is what happened, blah, blah, blah. I hurt my back really bad, and then Dara hurt her neck really bad. And he said, oh, you gotta see Garrett. Garrett is amazing. My hip was so sore. Now look at me. Don't I look great? So I said, yeah, So she told me, go check him out right now. So I went. I thought of other things in the beginning, mainly because I did have some biases against electrical stim, because I had electrical stim on myself. I have it at my clinic. So I was thinking, why would I even need it? I already know what it's about. So when I finally made my way over there, in my most down time, right, in my most debilitated state at that moment, it was amazing, Garrett. You took me in like without even you didn't even look anywhere else. You looked right at me, I remember, and you were like, just come on in. I'm like, oh, okay. And you went right away into the assessment. And that action alone, meant a lot, for me and my wife. The fact that you you put me in front of everybody else at that moment because you saw me really hurting. And
It was painful to look at.
it was bad. And
Going around.
but it was great because from there on, I'm a very tactile person. I learned so much in that moment because I had nothing.
Mhm.
I was thinking in my head, trying to self-diagnose myself. I was like, frick, I hope I don't have a fracture. You know, I don't want to go to the doctor. I refused treatment. And when you took me in, I was just open. I was like, listen, man, I'm open to whatever. And you did the assessment on me. We went through just the forward bending. Getting back that forward bending the first time was eye-opening for me. I was like, this is nothing that I've experienced ever in my
Mhm.
life, And I had a whole new look on electrical stimulation because I wanted to know why. Why was this about, why was this helping, in other words? And yeah, that's when I got to schedule later on, fast forward, with you in Austin and acquire my own newbie.
If you're ready to supercharge your practice, listen to this. Garrett and Team NeuFit have just released a new online course entitled Introduction to the NeuFit Method. In this detailed 8-hour course, you'll gain mastery of the fundamental techniques in our practice, including muscle testing and activations, nerve glides, and joint articulations. You'll also get introduced to our patented direct current stimulation device, the Newbie, an incredible machine that's empowered professionals just like you to help their patients heal, adapt, and grow faster than they ever thought possible. To learn more, go to www.neu.fit/learn. And now back to the show.
Yes. And I really like that. One, I like the story. Thank you for sharing it, and thank you
Yeah.
for being open enough to try something new, and especially when I mean, everyone who's been around and has as much experience as you in the PT field typically does have some biases around electrical stimulation and sees that it's either not working very much at all or only within a very tight constraint for very
Yeah.
particular, very specific indications, none of which would really make a difference, in the traditional mindset. In your case, after a traumatic injury like that, and yet in 15 to 20 minutes, we made a pretty significant impact. And I think that's one of the cool things is that it shows, I mean, events like that, it just shows how, powerful the process is because it works so quickly. We have people, 5, 10, 15 minutes, every 5, 10 or 15 minutes will come to the booth and they'll have, hey, I got this pain in my foot. I got this pain in my back. I got this pain in my elbow. My knee's been hurting me for years. And they'll make progress time after time after time after time. And I think it just speaks to that the importance of the nervous system is something that I'm sure I'll be saying a lot over these podcasts, kind of the central theme of the NeuFit method, which is that so many times it's not necessarily about what happens to us, it's not necessarily about anything being damaged or broken, but it's about how we respond to that trauma or injury and the neurological guarding and protection, and how that actually, in that guarding state, the state where the nervous system is perceiving threat, that's what triggers pain. That's where the body limits itself, where the nervous system and brain limit the output of the body, get you stuck in that hunched over state where your range of motion is super limited. You're in that, hobbling around, lower back pain, quote unquote, through my back out kind of situation. And by very quickly identifying exactly where those protective patterns are and then resetting them, you were able to have that breakthrough very quickly. And I mean, as much as we don't want that to happen in the first place, it kind of was. We talked about it was kind of serendipitous timing for you to get into like that,
Yeah.
experience it.
And me and my wife joke about this a lot, but I feel like that incident was a blessing, because we were able to actually experience what actually works and what doesn't,
Mm-hmm.
in the most acute situation.
Yeah.
And yeah, there are things that made a difference in decreasing inflammation. But I mean, how much it changed our understanding or connection to that pain,
Mm-hmm.
it just meant so much at that moment between both me and my wife. Like my wife was in tears, man, like right there. I mean, she'll tell you. Um, and yeah, no, I truly believe in it, that it helped with this whole healing process for my back and for my wife's neck and pelvic pain too. That was an amazing thing. How
Mm-hmm.
that helped with that. Yeah.
Yeah, and that had been something that even you kind of re-aggravated, but she had been dealing with already, right, for a while.
Yeah, it was after our second daughter, our second kid. We only have two. um, but she hurt her back around that period of time from giving birth, but also an incident that happened while she was trying to give our son a bath, that she hurt her tailbone. And so very chronic nerve pain on the anterior surface of the sacrum of the back, and a very difficult area to get. And I tried ultrasound. Ultrasound was probably one of the closest that was working. But since we use the newbie with it, she's almost down to nothing, which is like, she never thought would happen. I mean, we've done acupuncture too, and acupuncture's helped dramatically. But when, what I am interested with this newbie too, and was that we could do movement with electrical stimulation, right? And it becomes much more meaningful, right, in re-educating the nervous system. And that's what it helped with her at that moment was, okay, how can I move through these different patterns and experience that specific range of motion without pain? And that's moved the needle with not just me and Dara, but all my patients too. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, you're welcome, and thank you. And let's talk a little bit now. So we met at the conference the spring of 2019, and then communicated a few times, and then got you back over to the mainland to come to our course in December at the end of 2019.
Yeah.
And now, it's late summer, early fall 2020. So you've been using it for 8 months or so. Can you talk a little bit about, how it's impacted your practice, both specifically in terms of outcomes that you've seen, and also conceptually in terms of how you've seen it work with the more sophisticated manual therapy techniques and other strategies, and kind of how it fits within your practice? So I guess that's two questions in one, but we'll take it.
Okay. I'll start with the what I'm most familiar with in regards to the manual therapy part. So, what we learned within the North American Institute of Manual Therapy, we learned different types of mobilizations, under rigorous amount of assessment. Yeah, so majority of what we do in the beginning of our sessions with patients in the initial part is assessment, and treatment is rather quick, can be rather quick, mainly because we have the ability to do joint specific type of mobilizations or manipulations if we see such, and if we have the confidence for it. And so the most important part is not just the manipulation and assessment. From what I've learned with them is also the motor control. Like, how does the nervous system learn how to stabilize that newly acquired or restored position, right, of the joint? And so we do muscle energy type of techniques, contract relax type of techniques. In other words, that help to stimulate those type of nerve fibers and nerve activity to stabilize, right, those neuromuscular systems. What's interesting is that what I was able to do was, but this is what caught my eye when you mentioned how it re-educates, and I was like, how, right? And then when I learned more about it at in Austin, in the class with you, you go into the actual detail of it within the class, and it just like light bulbs went off. They were exploding. I was just like, oh my gosh, why am I not doing this, right? So if this is true and that is true, then we could get patients better much more efficiently, right? Crack this out in a matter of a couple of weeks. Then they can, most of my patients want to go from rehab, right, to wellness, right? And so, if we could get patients better quicker, then we could really focus on the patterns that can ensure their their success. And so that's what I've been doing, is utilizing these skilled manual therapy techniques with after assessment, especially, and after we do some type of manual, and even in combination with doing those those motor control or those muscle energy techniques. I've used the pads at the same time. And that's even better. And it was interesting because some of the podcasts before that I've heard from your podcast was people using it with, with grass stem type of techniques, or, a stem, or the Chinese call it gua sha, right? With the scraping. And we were all on the same page with that. We were all doing the same thing, which was so funny,
Yeah.
And using the gloves, right? But that's how I was doing the that re-education for like the neck and stuff. Was using the gloves, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is like amazing stuff. I could use it all the time, and we've been getting patients better. One story that I was mentioning earlier was about this woman that had 2 knee replacements, and she had a previous replacement maybe about 10 years before her second one. But what was interesting to me to hear from her was that we had a red light on her, as she was working through the exercises that I was doing with her and helping her decrease inflammation and pain. And we were using the regular Russian stem because that's what we had. And I told her, oh, just wait, I'm going to Austin in December. You're gonna be blown away, because I shared her with my experience, right? And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm wondering, what is it gonna do for you? And she's like, oh my gosh, I can't wait. And so after I came back from Austin, with this newbie, she was my first patient, right? she was the first one in line, ready to go. And consistently, through the manual therapy techniques, but also just keeping that knee stimulated in a sense, with the newbie, and working out the other working parts within her spine and pelvis, using not just the manual therapy techniques, but the newbie to give consistent, feedback on what the tone is like there, so we could change it. That way we could start re-educating. And she said, I've seen so much more results in 2 weeks than I did, with a month and a half after my operation. And she's like, no offense. And I'm like, oh, thanks. I said, yeah, it's definitely the newbie. It has nothing to do with the stuff I help you with. But it was life-changing for her, and her daughter, she didn't even know she was in pain. She wasn't in pain anymore until her daughter asked her the question, are you in pain, Mom? And she's like, oh, you know what? I don't think so. I didn't even think about it. And she shared that with me in one of the visits, and it was profound for her. It was life-changing. And I could share that too. I knew how life-changing things can be through this experience with the newbie, at least. So
Awesome. Well,
yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And I love working with therapists like you, who are, obviously very experienced, very knowledgeable. Nothing that we're doing is going to replace, your skills and your knowledge and your experience. What it can do, though, I think we're seeing, is that it can kind of, supercharge it, or give it that boost, and help provide the tool that can get you to those, the same goal. We're working towards the same goals. You're already focused on re-education and motor control, just help get there faster, and be very synergistic, I think, with what you're doing. And I love that you've been able to take the concepts and the basic techniques. And, there's times when people want the paint by numbers, just to follow the recipe and do this, this, and this. And then there's times when, people can take the concepts and apply them within the framework, and get great outcomes. And I love to hear how you've been able to do that, to apply the NeuFit methods and technology along with what you're doing there. And it truly is, it's an honor to be working with you. And I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your story. And major mahalo to you.
Major mahalo. Thank you.
Big major gratitude. I really, really appreciate you. And it's been a lot of fun getting to know you and getting to work with you over the last year or so. And we'll have to do a part 2, hopefully in person.
Oh yeah, most definitely. Yeah, you can use my place.
Yes, I like it. We need a little getaway to the island.
Yeah.
So just real quick before we sign off, can you let everyone know where they can find you if they want to look up your practice or see you, on the web, on social media? Where can we find Na'aopono?
Yeah, so you can check out my website, naaoponophysicaltherapy.com, NAAUPONO, physical therapy. And you can check us out also on Instagram and Facebook. Yeah, we're going to start doing or, reigniting our blogs. Actually, coincidentally, our next blog was supposed to be about us, you and I. So yeah, I'll definitely mention this.
Nice.
But so yeah, that's where you can find us out. We're all about the education and promotion of using these different types of biohacking equipment. So yeah, thanks, Garrett.
Awesome. And if anyone happens to be listening in Hawaii, it is absolutely worth a trip over there to experience the power of Na'au. So,
Thanks, Garrett.
thank you so much. We'll sign off. Thanks everyone for listening, and goodbye.
Aloha.
Thank you so much for listening to the Undercurrent podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving a review and be sure to subscribe to stay up to date as we release future episodes.